My parents spent months planning their destination wedding with my siblings, but never once asked me to be involved and left without me. When they lied on social media saying I was sick, I posted proof that I wasn't and exposed how they excluded me from everything for months. 17F, need to write this down because I'm questioning everything right now. My parents, 52M and 48F, have been together for 26 years. They never got married because my mom always said marriage was just a piece of paper, and they didn't need it. They have 3 kids, my older brother Daniel, 23M, my older sister Jaylene, 26F, and me. Last January, everything changed. My dad proposed to my mom on New Year's Eve at our annual family party. Everyone was shocked because after 26 years, nobody expected it. My mom cried and said yes, and within a week, they had already started planning a wedding. They wanted something big this time, not a courthouse thing. They picked a venue about 4 hours away at a fancy resort near the mountains for September. I need to explain how things work in my family, so this makes sense. My brother and my dad have always done everything together. Every Saturday morning since Daniel was 5, they wake up at 6 a.m. and go fishing. They also fix cars together in our garage. My dad taught Daniel everything about engines, and they've restored 2 vintage cars together. When Daniel got into college, my dad cried. They're best friends. My sister and my mom are the same way. Jaylene is a carbon copy of my mom. They both work in real estate. They go to the same yoga classes, they get their nails done together every other weekend, and they talk on the phone at least twice a day, even though Jaylene moved out 4 years ago. Jaylene has a daughter, E4F, and my mom watches her 3 days a week. They're always together. Then there's me. I tried to join their activities when I was younger. When I was 8, I asked my dad if I could go fishing with them. He said yes. But the whole morning, he and Daniel talked about carburetors and fishing techniques I didn't understand. I was bored and cold. I asked to go again a few times, but my dad would say things like, maybe next time, or it's going to be a long day. You probably wouldn't enjoy it. I stopped asking. I tried with my mom too. I asked to go to yoga when I was 10. She signed me up for 1 class, but then never took me again. She said I wasn't flexible enough and would enjoy other activities more. I asked about getting my nails done with them when I was 13. My mom said it was their special time together and maybe we could go for my birthday. We never did. I'm not like them. I like reading and I'm on the school debate team. I want to study English literature in college. My parents don't understand that. When I won a regional debate competition last year, my parents didn't come because Daniel had a football game the same day. Jaylene did come, but she spent the whole time on her phone. Anyway, back to the wedding. 2 weeks after the engagement, my mom asked Jaylene to be her maid of honor. Jaylene screamed and hugged her. They started planning the bachelorette party immediately. My dad asked Daniel to be his best man the same night. Daniel gave a speech at dinner about how honored he was and how my dad was his hero. I sat there eating my pasta. I figured I would be a bridesmaid or something, but weeks went by and nobody said anything to me. My mom and Jaylene went dress shopping 4 times. Each time I would hear them talking about it at dinner, but I was never invited. They hired a wedding planner and had meetings at our house. I was home for 2 of these meetings, in my room, and nobody called me down to participate. In March, my mom's sister suggested that I could be a junior bridesmaid since I was too old to be a flower girl. My mom said that was a good idea. I got a little excited, but then Jaylene said that Eden should be the flower girl and walk down the aisle with a little boy, the son of one of my dad's friends. My mom loved this idea. Jaylene then said that junior bridesmaid wasn't really necessary because they already had 4 bridesmaids and the wedding party was big enough. My mom agreed. Nobody asked what I thought. I brought it up once at dinner in April. I asked if there was anything I could do to help with the wedding. My dad said they had it under control. My mom said I could help address invitations if I wanted. She gave me a stack of 50 invitations to address. It took me 4 hours. Jaylene addressed none. Daniel addressed none. In May, my mom's mother suggested that I could give a toast at the reception. My grandmother actually called my mom while I was sitting in the kitchen and I heard my mom's side of the conversation. She said, "No, that's sweet, but we're keeping speeches to just the best man and maid of honor. We don't want it to drag on." My grandmother must have pushed back because my mom got irritated and said it just doesn't fit with what we're planning, okay? That hurt more than anything else up to that point. I went to my room and stayed there for the rest of the day. My mom knocked once and asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. She left. After that, I decided to see what would happen if I said nothing. I stopped asking questions. I stopped trying to be involved. I wanted to know if anyone would notice or if anyone would think to include me without me having to ask. The wedding was 4 months away at that point. They didn't notice. My mom and Jaylene went cake tasting. Daniel and my dad went to look at tuxedos. They had engagement photos taken. Just the 4 of them. My mom posted them on Facebook with a caption about her perfect family. I wasn't in a single photo. Relatives commented asking where I was. My mom replied to a few saying I was at a school event. I wasn't. The summer passed. I worked part-time at a bookstore. I saved money. I came home and ate dinner with them most nights. They talked about the wedding constantly, the flowers, the menu, the seating chart, The music, I sat there. Sometimes I would zone out completely and nobody noticed. In August, 2 weeks before the wedding, my mom asked me to help her pick up some decorations from a craft store. I went with her. She talked the whole time about how perfect everything was going to be. She said she was so grateful that the weather forecast looked good. She said Jaylene had found the perfect dress. She said Daniel's speech was going to make everyone cry. She didn't mention me once during the entire 2-hour drive round trip. 1 week before the wedding, my parents had their final walkthrough at the venue. They took Daniel and Jaylene. I was home. They came back around 9 p.m. My mom was glowing. She said everything was perfect. The rooms were booked. The timeline was set. Everyone had their assignments. 3 days before the wedding, I was in my room when my mom came in. She asked if my suitcase was packed. I looked at her and said no. She looked confused. She asked why not since we were leaving in 2 days. I asked her if I even had a plane ticket. Her face changed. She went pale. She left the room without saying anything. I heard her go downstairs and talk to my dad in hushed voices. Then I heard her on the phone. She was calling the airline. I listened from the top of the stairs. She was asking about last-minute tickets. The person on the phone must have told her the price because she made a noise and said, "Never mind. Let me call you back." She came back upstairs. She tried to smile. She said there had been a mix-up with the booking, but it was fine. We could get me a ticket. It would just be a little more expensive and maybe not the same flight as everyone else. I asked her what about the hotel room. She paused. She said they could probably squeeze a cot into Jaylene's room. I just stared at her. Then I asked what I was supposed to wear. She looked confused again. I reminded her that she went dress shopping with Jaylene and the bridesmaids 4 times and never asked me to come. I had no dress. I had no shoes. I had nothing. She started getting defensive. She said I could have asked. I said I shouldn't have to ask to be included in my own parents' wedding. She said I was being difficult. I said I was being excluded and there's a difference. My dad came upstairs then. He asked what the problem was. My mom explained about the ticket and the dress. He got annoyed. He said I was making a big deal out of nothing, and I could just wear something I already owned. I said I didn't have anything appropriate for a formal wedding. He said to just figure it out because they had enough to worry about. I said they had months to worry about me and never did. My dad said I was acting entitled. My mom said I should have spoken up if I wanted to be more involved. I said I tried and got shut down every time. My dad said I was remembering things wrong. We argued for 20 minutes. It kept getting worse. My mom accused me of purposely staying quiet to make them look bad. My dad said if I was going to have an attitude, then maybe I shouldn't come at all. I said fine. I turned around and went to my room and locked the door. I heard them arguing outside my door, but I put in headphones. Eventually, they went away. The next morning, I woke up at 10 a.m. The house was quiet. I went downstairs. Everyone was gone. They had left for the airport without me. There was no note. I called my friend Jessica and asked if I could come over. She said yes. I stayed at her house for 3 days. The wedding happened. I saw the photos on Facebook. Everyone looked fancy. My mom wore a white lace dress. Jaylene's dress was navy blue. Eden was adorable as the flower girl. Daniel gave a speech that my mom posted a video of. The venue looked beautiful. People started commenting on the photos, asking where I was. My aunt asked. My cousin asked. My mom's coworkers asked. At first, my mom didn't respond. Then she started replying to the comments. She said I had gotten sick at the last minute and couldn't travel. She said I had tested positive for a virus and was recovering at home. She said it was so sad that I had to miss it, but everyone understood. That's when I got furious. They excluded me. They forgot about me. They left me behind, and then they lied about it to save face. They made it sound like it was my fault for being sick, when the truth was they never planned for me to be there at all. I went to a pharmacy and bought a rapid test for that virus. I took it. Negative. I took a photo of myself holding the test with the timestamp visible. I posted it on Facebook and Instagram and tagged everyone who had asked about me. I wrote that I wasn't sick at all. My parents just forgot to buy me a ticket or include me in any wedding planning for 7 months. And when I brought it up, they told me not to come. My phone exploded. Messages from relatives, family friends, people I barely knew. Most people were on my side. They said my parents were wrong. They said they couldn't believe it. Some people messaged my parents directly. My aunt called my mom, and they had a huge fight according to my cousin who told me later. My parents called me from Hawaii. My dad was yelling. He said I was ruining their wedding. My mom was crying in the background. He said I was being vindictive and immature. I hung up. They called back 6 times. I didn't answer. They came home 4 days later. I was back at my own house by then because Jessica's parents had to go out of town. My parents walked in the door and immediately started screaming at me. My mom called me cruel. My dad called me selfish. Jaylene called me on video chat and joined in. She said I was a terrible sister for embarrassing them. Daniel sent me a text saying he thought I took it too far. I sat on the couch and said nothing. After an hour, they stopped yelling. My mom went to her room. My dad said I needed to apologize publicly and take down the post. I said no. He said as long as I lived under his roof, I had to follow his rules. I said fine and went upstairs. I felt sick to my stomach for days after that. The house was tense. My parents barely spoke to me. Jaylene came over once and tried to lecture me about family loyalty. I told her to leave. Daniel came over separately and said he understood I was hurt, but did I have to air it out publicly? I asked him why nobody included me in the first place. He didn't have an answer. My grandmother, my mom's mom, called me 2 weeks after the wedding. She had seen my post. She asked if everything I wrote was true. I said yes. She asked why I didn't call her sooner. I said I didn't want to bother her and I thought I could handle it. She said I was always welcome to live with her, but she knew I was starting college locally in a few weeks. That phone call lasted 3 hours. I told her everything. She said she believed me. She said my parents had always played favorites and she had tried to talk to them about it before, but they denied it. She said she was sorry. She said she would help me however she could. That was a month ago now. I'm supposed to start college in 2 weeks. My parents are still barely speaking to me. Jaylene hasn't spoken to me at all. Daniel texts occasionally, but it's surface level stuff. I'm still living at home because I have nowhere else to go right now. I don't know if I was wrong to post what I did. I don't know if I made everything worse. I just know that I couldn't let them lie about it. Update 1. My grandmother flew in last week. She didn't tell my parents she was coming. She called me from the airport and told me to meet her there. I borrowed my friend's car and drove over. When I saw her coming through arrivals, I started crying immediately. She held me for 10 minutes right there in the terminal. She had booked a hotel room and made me check in with her. We stayed up until 2 a.m. and I told her everything in detail. She asked me to explain specific incidents I remembered over the years where my parents excluded me. I told her about the debate competition they missed, the birthday party when I turned 14 where my mom left halfway through to help Jaylene with something, the time I made honor roll, and my dad forgot to acknowledge it at dinner. She listened to all of it. She took notes on her phone. The next morning, we went to breakfast. She asked me what I wanted. I said I wanted to move out, but I didn't have enough money, and I was starting college in a week. She said she would pay for a security deposit and first month's rent on an apartment. I said I couldn't accept that. She said it wasn't up for debate, and besides, she was using money that would eventually be my mom's inheritance anyway, so it was already family money. That afternoon, we went to look at apartments near campus. We found a small one-bedroom that allowed flexible lease terms. My grandmother put down a deposit that same day. The apartment would be ready in 2 weeks. Then we went to my parents' house. My grandmother told me to wait in the car. She went inside alone. I could see through the front window. My parents were home. My grandmother was pointing at them. My dad's face was red. My mom was crying. This went on for 45 minutes. My grandmother came back to the car. She said we were going back to the hotel to pack up my stuff from home. I said my parents would stop me. She said no, they wouldn't. Not with her there. We drove back to my house. My parents were sitting in the living room looking exhausted. My grandmother told me to go pack. I took 2 trips upstairs and packed my clothes, my books, my laptop, and everything else I needed. My mom tried to follow me upstairs, but my grandmother blocked her. I heard my grandmother say that I was 17 and would be 18 in 3 months, and if they tried to stop me from leaving, she would involve authorities and make their lives much more complicated than they needed to be. I came downstairs with 2 suitcases and a backpack. My dad stood up. He said they were planning to throw me a birthday party next month to make up for the wedding situation. My grandmother laughed out loud. She said it was too little too late, and they knew it. My mom reached out to hug. I stepped back. My mom said she was sorry and she didn't realize how badly they had hurt me. I didn't respond. My dad said I was being cruel and punishing them unfairly. My grandmother told him to shut his mouth. We walked out. I left my house key on the table by the door. We went back to the hotel. My grandmother told me what my parents had said during her confrontation with them. They claimed they didn't purposely exclude me. They said I was always so independent and self-sufficient that they assumed I was fine. My grandmother said that was nonsense and they were making excuses. She said they admitted they had forgotten about the ticket and the dress, and they panicked when I brought it up. My grandmother also said she told them I had questioned whether I was actually their biological daughter, given how differently they treated me compared to my siblings. My mom apparently broke down when she heard this. My grandmother confirmed that I was definitely their daughter, and they were both present at my birth, and there was never any question about it. The bigger issue, according to my grandmother, was that my parents had always seen Jaylene and Daniel as easier to connect with. My grandmother said my mom admitted she never knew what to do with me because I was quiet and preferred reading to socializing. My dad said he tried to bond with me when I was younger, but we didn't have common interests. My grandmother said she told them that was their job as parents to find ways to connect with me, not my job to change myself to fit their interests. They asked if I would come back home. My grandmother said no. They asked if I would talk to them. My grandmother said only if I wanted to, and I didn't owe them anything. My mom asked what they could do to fix this. My grandmother said they should have thought about that 7 months ago. My grandmother stayed for 3 more days. We bought furniture for my apartment and groceries and supplies. She transferred money into my bank account. She said it was enough to cover rent and expenses for 6 months, and by then I should have financial aid figured out for college. I tried to argue, but she wouldn't hear it. My brother came to the hotel to see me. He said he was sorry for not standing up for me during the wedding planning. He said he should have noticed that I wasn't included. He said he was so focused on his own role that he didn't think about how I might be feeling. He asked if we could stay in touch. I said maybe, but I needed space. He accepted that. Jaylene sent me a long text message. She said I was manipulating our grandmother and turning the family against our parents. She said I always had to be the victim and make everything about myself. She said the wedding was supposed to be a happy time and I ruined it with my drama. She said I should be ashamed. I blocked her number. My parents tried to visit the hotel, but the front desk wouldn't give them my room number. They called me 12 times. I didn't answer. They sent emails. I didn't read them. My grandmother left on Friday. We said goodbye at the airport. She told me she was proud of me. She said I was doing the right thing by removing myself from a situation where I wasn't valued. She said she would call me every week to check in. She said if my parents tried to mess with my college enrollment or my financial aid, I should tell her immediately and she would handle it. I moved into my apartment yesterday. My friend Jessica helped me unpack. The apartment is small, but it's mine. I'm supposed to start classes on Monday. I registered without telling my parents. I'm using the address of my apartment on all my forms instead of their house. Last night, my parents showed up at my apartment building. They somehow found out where I lived. They knocked on my door for 20 minutes. I didn't answer. They slid a letter under the door. I haven't opened it yet. It's sitting on my kitchen counter. I keep thinking about what my grandmother said about my parents claiming I was too independent. I wasn't independent. I was neglected. There's a difference. If I seemed fine, it's because I learned not to expect anything from them. That's not independence. That's survival. Update 2. Classes started, and I fell into a routine pretty quickly. I liked having my own space. I could come and go without explaining myself. Jessica visited twice a week. My grandmother called every Sunday. I was managing. My parents kept trying to contact me. They sent letters. They sent emails. They left voicemails. I ignored all of it. Jaylene sent me a message through a mutual friend asking me to talk to our mom because she was depressed. I didn't respond. Daniel texted me once a week asking how I was. I usually replied with 1 or 2 words. Then in October, something changed. I was at the library studying when Daniel called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. He said we needed to talk in person. He sounded serious. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near campus. He looked tired when he showed up. He sat down and didn't order anything. He said our parents' marriage was falling apart. I said that wasn't my problem. He said I needed to hear him out. According to Daniel, after I moved out, the tension in the house became unbearable. My parents started fighting constantly. They blamed each other for how they had treated me. My dad said my mom should have included me more in her activities with Jaylene. My mom said my dad should have made an effort to connect with me on my own terms instead of expecting me to like fishing and cars. They went in circles. Their friend group started distancing themselves after my Facebook post. Several people unfriended them. Others stopped inviting them to gatherings. My parents tried to explain their side, but nobody wanted to hear it. The general consensus was that forgetting your own daughter at your wedding was inexcusable regardless of the circumstances. My mom's sister stopped speaking to her. My mom's brother sided with my grandmother and called my mom once to tell her she should be ashamed. My dad's family was more neutral, but still clearly uncomfortable. Daniel said family dinners were awkward and people kept asking about me. Jaylene was still defending them, but even her husband had apparently made comments about how badly they had handled everything. Eden asked why I didn't come to the wedding, and Jaylene told her I was sick, but Eden had seen my Facebook post on Jaylene's phone and got confused about why I said I wasn't sick. Jaylene had to do damage control with a 4-year-old. The wedding photos that my mom was so proud of were basically useless now. Every time someone looked at them, they noticed I wasn't there. My mom had taken them down from the walls. She couldn't stand looking at them. Daniel said our parents had started going to counseling. The therapist had apparently asked them to write down all the times they remembered excluding me. My mom filled 3 pages. My dad filled 2. They were horrified when they saw it all laid out. According to Daniel, my mom had a breakdown in the therapist's office when she realized the pattern. They wanted to meet with Daniel said they weren't asking for forgiveness. They just wanted a chance to apologize in person and take accountability. I told Daniel I would think about it. He said that was fair. I didn't think about it for long. I decided no. I told Daniel the next day through text. He said he understood. He asked if I would meet with just him regularly. I said yes, but only once a month, and only if he stopped trying to advocate for our parents. He agreed. 2 weeks after that conversation, my parents showed up at my apartment again. It was 7 p.m. on a Thursday. I was making dinner. They knocked on the door. I looked through the peephole and saw them standing there with a shopping bag. I opened the door, but didn't invite them. My mom looked like she had aged 10 years. She had dark circles under her eyes. My dad had lost weight. They asked if they could come in. I said no. They asked if we could talk in the hallway. I said they had 5 minutes. My mom did most of the talking. She said they had been going to counseling and working through why they treated me the way they did. She said she realized she had projected her own childhood onto Jaylene and saw her as a second chance to have the mother-daughter relationship she never had with her own mom. She said she took for granted that I would always be there and didn't need the same attention. She said she was wrong. My dad said he struggled to connect with me because I reminded him of his own father, who was distant and critical. He said he didn't know how to interact with someone who was introspective and preferred solitude. He said instead of trying to understand me, he focused on Daniel because that relationship came naturally. He said that was a failure on his part. They said they wanted to make amends. They brought the shopping bag into view. Inside were all my childhood photos, my baby book, my school projects that they had saved, and a letter they had written. They said I didn't have to read it now, but they hoped I would eventually. They said they weren't expecting me to forgive them, but they wanted me to know they were trying to change. I took the bag. I said I appreciated them acknowledging what they did wrong, but I wasn't ready to have a relationship with them. I said their counseling and growth was for them, not for me, and I didn't want to be part of it. My mom started crying. My dad put his arm around her. They turned and left. I brought the bag inside and left it by the door. I didn't open it for 3 days. When I finally did, I went through everything. The photos were from when I was a baby and toddler. In every photo, my parents were smiling at me. They were holding me. They looked happy. There were fewer photos as I got older. By the time I was 10, there were barely any. The letter was 6 pages long, handwritten by both of them. They outlined specific memories of excluding me. They apologized for each one. They explained that their therapist said they had fallen into a pattern of taking the path of least resistance in parenting, which meant gravitating toward the kids who were easier for them to understand. They said they didn't realize how damaging this was until I was gone. They said they didn't expect me to respond. They said they would respect my boundaries. They said if I ever wanted to reach out, they would be there. I put the letter away. I called my grandmother and told her what happened. She said it sounded like they were genuinely trying, but that didn't mean I had to accept their apology. She said I got to decide what relationship, if any, I wanted with them moving forward. She said I should take my time and not let anyone pressure me. My 18th birthday passed in November. My parents sent flowers to my apartment. The card said they loved me and were sorry they hadn't shown it properly. I threw the flowers away. Jessica took me out to dinner instead, and we went to a movie. It was a good day. Daniel invited me to Thanksgiving at his apartment. He said our parents wouldn't be there, just him and some friends. I went. It was nice. He didn't bring up our parents once. We talked about his job and my classes and normal sibling things. It felt like we were starting to rebuild something separate from the rest of the family. Jaylene texted me the day after Thanksgiving. She said I was selfish for skipping family Thanksgiving and hurting our parents even more. She said I was dragging this out for attention. I blocked her. Update 3. It's March now. I made it through my first year of college. My grades are good. I picked up a tutoring job that pays enough to cover groceries and some expenses. My grandmother still helps with rent, but I'm trying to be less dependent on her money. She says not to worry about it, but I do anyway. My parents kept their distance after that conversation in November. They sent a Christmas card. They sent a card on Valentine's Day. They sent a card on my half-birthday in February, which I didn't even know they remembered. Each card had a short message saying they were thinking of me. I didn't respond to any of them. Daniel and I have gotten closer. We meet for lunch every few weeks. He's been careful not to push me toward our parents. He talks about his life and asks about mine. Last month, he told me he had confronted our parents about how they treated me when we were growing up. He said he felt guilty for not noticing sooner. I told him he was a kid too, and it wasn't his responsibility. He said that was generous of me, but he still felt bad. Jaylene and I haven't spoken since I blocked her. According to Daniel, she's still angry at me. She thinks I've torn the family apart. Daniel said he tried to explain to her that the family was already broken. I just exposed it. She didn't want to hear it. In February, my grandmother got sick. Nothing life-threatening, just a bad flu that turned into bronchitis. I flew out to see her for a week and helped take care of her. We spent a lot of time talking. She asked me if I had read the letter my parents wrote. I said yes, but I hadn't responded. She asked if I wanted to respond. I said I didn't know. She told me something I didn't know before. She said when I was born, my parents were excited. They wanted 3 kids, and they got exactly that. But by the time I was 2 or 3 years old, my mom was overwhelmed. Jaylene was 7 and demanding. Daniel was 4 and energetic. I was quiet and easy. My grandmother said my mom once told her that I never cried or asked for things, so she assumed I was fine and focused her energy on the other 2, who seemed to need her more. My grandmother said that was when the pattern started. My parents didn't purposely neglect. They just took the path of least resistance every single day for 15 years. By the time the wedding came around, they were so used to not considering me that they literally forgot I existed in the context of their big event. She said that didn't excuse it, but it explained it. I went back home to my apartment after that trip feeling unsettled. I thought about what my grandmother said. I thought about the letter. I thought about my parents showing up looking exhausted and guilty. I thought about how they stopped trying to force contact and were respecting my boundaries. Last week, my parents reached out through Daniel. They said they wanted to take me to dinner. No expectations. Just a chance to see me. Daniel said he would come too if it made me more comfortable. I said I needed time to think about it. I still haven't decided. Part of me wants nothing to do with them. Part of me is curious if they've actually changed. Part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. Part of me thinks I'm not being harsh enough. Jessica says I should do whatever feels right for me. My grandmother says the same thing. Daniel says he'll support me either way. Nobody is pushing me in any direction, which is both freeing and paralyzing. I'm not ready to forgive them. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. They had 17 years to see me as a full person, and they didn't. They noticed me only after I made them look bad publicly and after everyone else turned on them. That doesn't feel like genuine change. That feels like damage control. But I also know people can change. I know my parents are trying, at least according to Daniel. I know they're in counseling and working on themselves. I know they're not harassing me or demanding my time. They're doing what I asked, which is leaving me alone. I don't know what happens next. Maybe I'll agree to dinner in a few months. Maybe I won't. Maybe Daniel and I will continue building our own relationship separate from them. Maybe Jaylene will eventually calm down and reach out. Maybe she won't. What I do know is that I'm okay. I have my apartment and my classes and my job and my friends and my grandmother. I'm building a life that doesn't revolve around trying to earn attention from people who couldn't see me when I was right in front of them. That has to be enough for now.